Hello, I'm Jake Niedling. I live in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I belong to the Smoky Mountain Wood Turners. And I'm going to do a demo that shows you how I do my three-piece hollow Christmas ornaments. And we're talking about an ornament that looks similar to this here, where it's got a top finial, a globe, and then a bottom finial. And the globe is hollowed out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. The sizes of the globe can vary. Here's a burl piece with a maple finial that I did, and it's hollow as well. So the shape can vary to whatever you like and whatever size wood that you have that you want to use for your project. The one that I'm going to demonstrate tonight is actually this one here. There's no finish on this one yet, but it is glued together and it's ready to be sprayed and put a final finish on. So this is the ornament that I'm going to show you how I make it, and hopefully if you follow my procedures, they'll work for you as well. So take care, and let's go to the lathe and I'll show you how I do it. I'm going to be using a 3/8 inch detailed spindle gouge to shape the ornament. I usually shape the front half, and then I do the back half to match the front half. And I make kind of a squatted globe. I don't make a round globe. The two ends are a little bit smashed or squashed. Now I'm going to work on the back half. Just kind of roughing it in. It's a little bit of a challenge with the camera right where my eyes would normally be, so I'm trying to look around the camera as I do this. The end of this is a little pointy, so I'm going to pick up the cut, flatten it out. There, I pretty well got the shape. I look for the balance on both sides and finesse it so I get the same shape. This side right here looks a little high. Take a little bit more off that side. So there's my shape. I'm not going to go only about halfway on the back side because I need the strength to go in and hollow it. So the next step would be to sand this outside. I do it through all the grits, you know, 120, 180, 220, 320, sometimes 400. So 220. So I get 3/4 of the globe all sanded complete before I do any hollowing. Stop, take a look at it. It's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to get ready to hollow. First thing I got to do is put a little dimple in the end so I can drill through the ornament. That gives a place for the drill bit to start. I'm using a 1/2 inch brad point bit, and I'm going to drill all the way past the other side, so the hole will go all the way through the ornament. So I'll go into this waist part with the drilled hole. So I can kind of mark how deep I want it. Kind of mark on my drill bit. Slow it down a little bit when I drill. Clean out the drill bit. Drill all the way to my mark. Now I'm going to be doing the hollowing with this Bob Roseanne style hollowing tool. It's a piece of high-speed steel, 3/16, silver soldered onto a 1/4 inch steel bar, mild steel bar. And the tip is at a 45-degree angle, and it's shaped almost like a round nose scraper on the end, kind of cut back. And I'll just go in and start hollowing it out in the middle. And I can use this tool to cut straight in with the nose or the top part of the high-speed tip, and then I can use the side of it and the round nose to get around the inside. So I can use it both to plunge with and to hollow out with. Turn the speed up a little bit. One more thing I need to tell you about this tool is I do usually put a mark on it as to how deep I'm going to go inside. So you can see when I get to that point, I'll be within about 1/4 inch of the bottom. So I'm just going to make some cuts to open up the inside. I'm angling the tool back away towards the wall on the handle to get the tip to go into the center to undercut the inside of the globe. I'll stop the globe lathe and blow out the chips out of the inside. I do have a little homemade thickness gauge that was a paper clip, but I just bent it into a C and just put some distance in between the 2 points, and then I can visually see that gap on the outside. So I'll go on the inside, see where I'm at. I can see I got a little bit of a gap there. So right now, you know, I'm still probably 3/8 of an inch almost. I can do that on the far side, and it's about the same. So that just helps me know how much more I've got to hollow. So stop it again. Blow out all the dust, and then put my little gauge in here. See where I'm at. Again, I pull it again, pull it in the inside. Put my finger on the outside, pull it out, and you know, I'm down probably 3/16 now. Same thing on the inside or the bottom. So I'll make another cut.
I like to try to get them to about 1/8 of an inch if I can.
That should be all the hollowing. I'll just take one more check, see how thick it is. And now I'm probably about 1/8 of an inch. So I've got it all hollowed. Now I've got to cut it off, and I always reverse chuck these on a little jam chuck to finish the other side. So I'm going to simply cut this off and put my waste block on here, flip it around, and you'll see how I do the other side. So I'm close, but I'm still probably 1/4 inch on the bottom side of final thickness. And it also, when I flip it around, put on the jam chuck, allows me to sand this bottom edge really well also. So I'll use a parting tool to get rid of some of that wood so I can see in there a little better. Now I'm just going to go ahead and part it off. And there we go. This is the top side. This is the bottom side. And we have about 1/4 inch of thickness on this end. And obviously you can see we've got about 1/8 of an inch on this end here. So by reverse jam chucking it, I can get the back side as even as the top side and be a nice light ornament. So let's get ready for the jam chuck. If this block of wood is big enough, I'll use it to make my jam chuck. But since it's too small, I'll use a leftover one from another project for this ornament. Here's what this other piece looks like for the jam chuck. You can see it's just a piece of wood with a tenon on the end, but on the inside I've actually curved it similar to the shape of the ornament, and there's a little 1/2 inch tenon that'll fit inside the ornament globe to put it on center. I usually end up with these left over, and I save them. I don't usually throw them away because they can be reused just like I'm doing now. I can check my fit to see how my ornament's going to fit in there. This one's a little tight, so I'm going to go in and clean that up a little bit so it fits not too tight because I don't want to split the ornament. Just a little clean up there to make sure it's all running straight and smooth. There we go. It's on there nice and firm and solid. And it's also touching the inside of the curved surface, not just on the tenon. And one thing I do for extra support is I'll tape this thing on, and I use just blue painter's tape just to help it from making sure it doesn't pop off that jam chuck. And I probably put more on that's needed, but the tape's pretty cheap, and just extra security to make sure this blank doesn't come off. There we go, we got it all taped on. So now I'm going to clean up the outside surface and get it done. I'm just going to use this detailed spindle gouge. I'm going to rub the bevel, pick up the cut, and finish the shape. I'm not trying to take big cuts, I'm trying to take real light cuts. It's looking pretty good. I get that shape where I want it. I get my sandpaper back out. I'll sand this half. The other half's already sanded. And just slow down the sanding speed a little bit. Check my surface here. It all looks real good. And the 320. My finials are fairly small, and so the cap that I usually put on the top of the ornament icicle is just a little bit larger than the 1/2-inch hole, or whatever size hole I end up with. So the top of the icicle is probably not more than about 3/4 of an inch at the most. So we'll take a look at this. That all sanded up really nice. I'm happy with that. And so now we're going to go inside. And we're going to finish hollowing the inside. Again, I'm just making light cuts with the nose of this thing. And that's about all it takes to get the inside bottom all hollowed out to final thickness. Looks like I'm going to make just one more cut in there. So the inside's all hollowed out. I can take off the tape. And there might be a little bit of a line where the tape was, edge of the tape was. Now usually, this is on here strong enough. I usually sand that where the tape was, just to make sure when I put a finish on it, there's no edge or change in the surface. Pull this thing off, and there we have it. One ornament globe, hollowed out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. And all I have to do now is turn a finial for the top and the bottom. Hope that helps you in your hollowing. Good luck in making ornaments. I have the finial on the bottom, a long finial, then a small finial or cap on the top. And these two pieces, the bottom finial and the cap, is what we're going to turn next. So let's get started. I've already gone ahead and prepped this blank of wood. It's a piece of maple about 1 inch square by 6.5 to 7 inches long. I put a tenon on one end, and I have some pin jaws that I use on my chuck. Now, if you don't have pin jaws, you can take and use your larger jaws of your chuck, your 50mm chuck, and take a piece of scrap, a cutoff, that has the tenon on it. I have a drawer full of these, and I put that in my bigger chuck, and then drill a hole inside that will fit this tenon. And then I simply glue it in there, and now I've got this piece that can be held in my larger chuck and turn the finial the same way that I'm going to show you now. So with the pin jaws, I don't need this adapter, but this is just a piece of scrap of leftover from other projects. So we're going to make sure this gets into the pin jaws nice and tight. I'm going to bring up the tailstock for some security. Looks like we're off a little bit. I don't think I've got it up tight against the jaws of the chuck. Nice and tight. There, that looks better. bring in my tail support. And I do this project with tail support almost to the very end because it helps support this thin stem that we're going to make for this finial and minimizes vibration. I know a lot of people turn these finials on YouTube without the tail support, but I find it faster and easier to get what I want done with that support. We're going to be using three main tools today. We'll be using the roughing gouge, spindle roughing gouge, and we'll be using my 3/8 detail gouge, my favorite tool. And then we'll also be using a parting tool. So let's get started. Now, if you'll remember, the globe has about a 1 inch or a 1/2 inch hole drilled in it. And the cap that I'm going to put over this hole is going to be roughly about 3/4 of an inch. So I don't want to get this any smaller than 3/4 of an inch up here where the cap is going to be. Bring my tool rest in, get it adjusted to height, and then start rounding it out. And because this is like one inch square, I don't have a speed readout, but you know, I'm usually going to run this 1500 to 2000 RPM. And this will be the end of the long finial here, and the cap will be up this way. And I do the long finial first, and then I do the cap up here. I don't know if you can see, but I'm using this spindle roughing gouge on its side and using it to make peeling cuts. Now I'm going to form the little ball or little point on the end. I'm going to switch over to my detail spindle gouge to form the little teardrop point I'm going to make on the bottom. I take it down to about 1/8 of an inch. I don't finish it. I'll come back and finish that later, but I want that little bit of support to minimize vibration as I do the rest of this. This will be the thinnest part of the finial. I have a shape that I turn just about all the time, so I usually never measure it. but I'm probably shooting for a finial that's going to be about 4 inches long from the cap to the bottom where the point is. You can even go back at this point and use a spindle roughing gouge real lightly. Now I do need to check to make sure I have the right cap size, so I will use a caliper and I will measure how big I want that cap to be. And I give it about 1/8 of an inch larger than the hole, and then I'll lock that and I'll check to see where I'm at. So right there is where the diameter is in this area. So I've got a little bit more to take off here. So we'll check again. There we go, we're pretty good. So we got our diameter. So now we can go and try to put some more detail into our finial. And the detail can be whatever you want it to be. There's nothing particular about my finial. They can be as detailed as you want and as elaborate as you want. But this is the one that I kind of like and what I usually make. And you notice I'm rolling this detail gouge on its side completely to get into that very sharp bottom of that corner without getting a catch. So that shape all looks pretty good. So now I'll go up to the next element. This element is a cove. This is classic spindle work, where you're going from one side to the bottom, the other side to the bottom. So that looks good. Move on up to the next part, which is the part just above the cap. Here we go. We got the finial. The cap is right there. And I usually will angle the cap back just a little bit. And then I'm going to start my tenon that's going to fit up inside the globe. Now, I usually make my cap about 1/8 of an inch wide on the edge of the cap. So now we need to measure the opening. I drilled a 1/2 inch hole, but sometimes the hole does become a little bit enlarged where I have to clean it up. So I always recheck the diameter and turn this finial to that diameter. So there we have the inside diameter. I lock it down, stop the lathe, and check to see where I'm at. Hopefully not too small. And we're just a hair too large yet. So I need to take that down. I'm looking for a pretty tight fit. You notice I didn't take much off. I don't get real aggressive at this point. We're just almost right there. It almost wants to fall over. So just a touch more. There we go. We got a good fit right there. Now, the other thing I need to do is the cap right here is flat. It's straight in. And to fit the curve of the globe, I actually have to undercut this cap so the outside edge will fit around the globe and there won't be any gaps. So I guess there's one more tool that I forgot, and that is this, it's a little 1/4 inch skew, round skew, pretty sharp pointed. I use it to undercut the cap. So I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to use this like a scraper, not like a skew, and lay it flat. And I'm going to angle it, and I'm going to use the very point to go in underneath the cap and provide some relief. Like that. That's all it takes. Now, at this point, I'm going to sand all this up before I come back and cut off the end. And if you have good cuts, it won't take much sanding. We'll hit this with a little 180. But this is my general shape that I pretty much do on all my ornaments. And down sand the little bead, a little teardrop. Make sure I get the cove, fold my paper, and I'm real happy. I've got some pretty sharp details on these corners. They're not rounded over. Take some 220. Let's stop and take a look, see how our sanding job has been. Looks pretty decent. So now I'm going to come down and finish off the end of this. I'm going to go back and I'm going to use my detail gouge and just nibble at that ever so lightly, lengthening it out and making it smaller until it cuts off. And I'm going to use just the very nose of this tool, not the wing, top or bottom, but just the very nose. And we take little bites. So now I've lengthened out that 1/8 inch tip. Now I'm going to go back up to the bottom side of the little teardrop and make little downward cuts in the direction I want it to finish off in. And make sure I get rid of some of the wood in front of it. Till I get just about a tiny bit, just a fiber. There I go. I've got it off and it falls down. So now I can come back, and this is running pretty true, and I'll sand all this up and get a nice point. We've got a nice point going on there. Hit it with some 220. You can tell this is pretty solid. So there, we've got the finial done. I never put finish on the lathe. I put all these together, I glue them together with the globe, and I spray the globe and the finial all at one time. So now it's just a matter of parting this off. You can use a parting tool, you can use a saw, whatever you feel comfortable with. And I'm going to use a parting tool. I've got it down to about 1/8 of an inch now, and I usually just put my finger around it and go for it. So there we have the finial. With some luck, it'll fit. Now we're going to go ahead and use the remaining wood to turn the top finial for the ornament globe. I'm going to use the same detail spindle gouge for this part of it as well. And I'm going to make the top cap the same size as the bottom cap. So I've measured the bottom cap with the calipers, and we're going to turn this down to that large diameter, which is the size of the bottom cap, or the top cap. Just going to get a reference where my diameter is, and we're pretty close right there. So now I need to go down to that dimension, all the way back. We'll do another check. And we're still just a little large, so a few more passes. We're real close right there. So now this will be the top of the top finial. And so we're going to shape the top of this, and the cap will be back here somewhere. What I try to do for the top is I try to replicate the first part of the bottom. This is where it attaches to the globe. So I want to make the top kind of represent what this first element looks like here. So I'll be doing something very similar to that in design. I generally don't measure these. I just use my eye and get them close. This up here at the top looks too large. We'll stop and take a look at this again. And it looks similar in design, so that's what we're after. So now we'll establish where the cap is going to be at the bottom. I always put a little chamfer on this. I also like to drill a hole for the ornament hanger for the screw out. Give me a little indent there. And I have this little drill bit that will fit inside my chuck, where I can be held by my hand. So it's kind of a permanent pin vise, if you will, that I can use either way, like I said, in the chuck, or I can use it freehand. The little hole started there. Just push it in. Got my hole drilled for my cap already. I do use screw eyes, and I buy them. And the ones I buy are number 217.5. That's the size of the screw eyes. A real small screw eye. These are brass plated, and I buy these by the 200s from this company called www.artdisplaysystems.com, and just do them on Amazon. I think they're like $10 for 200 or something like that. So now we'll go through and sand this up. We'll stop and take a look at it, make sure it looks good. That looks great. So now we'll make our tenon fit in the ornament. Now when I'm making these, sometimes the size of the hole isn't the same on both sides. So I always measure each hole and make sure the piece I'm making will fit that hole. I don't ever make them exactly a ½ inch, even though I drilled them a ½ inch. This one remained pretty close. It's about 5/1000ths over. So we'll come and make our tenon just like we did on the bottom finial with our parting tool. Check, see how close we are. And we got a good 1/8 of an inch to go yet. A lot of stopping and starting. But I just don't like a sloppy fit. I like to have a pretty nice fit, good fit when I'm gluing these in. It's really close. Just a few whiskers is all I need. I got to push it on a little too much yet. Okay, it's time to undercut the cap, just like we did before. We use the 1/4 inch round skew on the side, laying flat. There we go, we got that all done. And we're ready to part it off. Same process as before. I leave about a 1/4 inch, I guess, tenon. I just grab a hold of it and cut it off. Now we're going to assemble the ornament, and I use in a 5-minute epoxy, whatever brand you like, but I use a 5-minute epoxy. I know there's been some issues with super glue not holding up and getting brittle. You could use some wood glue, but I kind of prefer the epoxy. So I've mixed up in the bowl a little bit of 5-minute epoxy. Doesn't take very much. And I put some on into my skewer. Make sure I got the right end. So this is the end I'm going to put the long or the bottom finial in. And I go all the way around the inside of the hole. I try not to put any on the outside of the globe because I don't want it to squeeze out and have a glue line. But I put it all over the inside fairly generously. And I usually put a little bit on the tenon, just a few little drops, because it fits tight enough. I don't want a whole bunch up there to squeeze out. So once I got enough glue on that, I'll go ahead and I usually put it in there and twist it as I'm putting it in. There we go. Then we do the same thing on the top side with the top finial. Again, I'll put a little bit on the edge, on the very bottom edge. I don't put it up underneath the cap. And I don't put a whole lot on this edge, just a little bit. And then I push it in and twist it to make sure I got good coverage. And then I look at the grain and I try to orient the grain of the bottom finial and the top finial to kind of match the grain of the globe. So I'll kind of get them lined up where all the grain is kind of running down through here. And then I generally just hold it in my hand between the top and bottom for just a minute or two while the glue is coming to firming up. And then once after a couple of minutes, then I just set it. Usually I set it vertically up and down in a little holder and let it cure overnight. And after it cures, I'll come and I'll put the screw eye into the very top of the globe. And let me show you what screw eyes I use. Here's the screw eyes that I use. They're a number 217.5. I bought these on the internet through Amazon. And I think I got 200 for $10 or something like that. Anyhow, that's what I use for my screw eyes. And once this is all set up and dried, then I'll generally sign my ornaments. And since this is the maple is the lighter wood, I'll sign my name right underneath this cap and date it. And then I'll hang it up on the screw eye and I'll spray it with a lacquer spray, a Def lacquer spray. Here's what I generally use. There's a Watco brand that I use sometimes, but I do use the gloss. And I'll spray it, and I'll let it hang overnight, and then I'll usually deburr it with some 4/0 steel wool, just lightly. Then I'll spray it again and probably give it about 4 coats of spray to get to the final finish, and then buff it out to get a nice smooth feel to the finish as well. So generally with my ornaments, I've got a hanger. This is just a piece of bent wire that I put into the screw eye, and I just hang them. I'll hold it with this wire, spray it, and then I'll hang it, and like I said, deburr it, spray it multiple more coats afterwards. So there would be like a finished ornament. All right. Hope you've enjoyed this and picked up a few tips, and we look forward to seeing you and seeing what you make. So take care, and good luck on making Christmas ornaments.